Well, hello, and welcome. This is Jolene with the Jewel Design, and today I am doing an extension of the Instagram post you saw. I did a quick shorty last week, and I was showing me sort of sewing through this corset lace. I was going to say ballet lace, but I think it reminds me more of like as if you were bringing together the corset. A corset in the back, lacing up a corset. And I finally figured out the pattern, the rhythm, how to go about it. And so I was sort of working on it, online, on my Instagram sort of reel, trying to show it. And I had a few people say, hey, will you do that in a video, with the actual piece that we're working with. So this sort of entails a little bit of the figure 8 feel of the standard ollie string ordeal that we do for most covers to help sew in a signature. But since the pieces are not connected, your covers are not connected, we have to find a way to lace these together. And so that they can then easily open up, right? It's still opened up, and this will be better, of course, installed, but this will still be attached to where it can be opened and used, hopefully, and not be a problem. So the basic lace of it is good. It's whether or not it will do the rest of it. So this is your signature. I went ahead and made the standard 3 holes that we always do, so that when we do it, we're going to have string through here and string through here, but you're not going to see it on the outside because we're going to lace it between the 2 pieces instead. And we'll hope that when we're done all this work, right, that with that in the middle, it's going to keep it in place and do its job. So what I did was, once I had these 3 in place, I lined it up here about middle of where, where I want it in my cover. And I marked the top, the middle, and the bottom. All right, so I'm really looking to make sure, okay, those are my big pieces we need to have. And then I went ahead and did them at about just a little, pretty close to just a little, at exactly 1 centimeter, and a little over on the bottom half, or a little off here. It was perfect centimeters, almost top to bottom, but I was just a little off here. So I'm just going a little bit over 1 centimeter. Right, CMs, just a smidge over each centimeter to get even, to have even spacing down here. I could have gone exactly 1, and then I'd have 2 of them right here, too close together, and I didn't want to do that. So what I did was, 27 to 15 and 15 to 3.5 centimeters, which is about 12 centimeters for both sides, which is a little longer here, which is fine. It's pretty darn close for eyeballing the signature and deciding where to plop in the lines. It was pretty close. I was pretty impressed with myself. But I went ahead and marked the spots here. So when I go to use the awl to put the holes in, I'm not trying to keep this aligned and have it move on me. So I did notice when I was working on this that I did not like the idea of a wider gap. At first I was trying to go in between, and I didn't like this really large signature, really large crisscross. I like the smaller look. I think it's cleaner. And it's also going to make it a little easier on the inside, because the inside, when we're done, the back page is going to have a nice clean line of stitch work, which you could just, like I'm using the green fabric. I'm using this green embroidery thread, and I could ink it to make it darker. I can put bits of washi tape over it. Like I can break this up and down the page. And since I am doing the green, I think on our inside, I don't know if I have it close. It's actually nice because we do have a close to green color in the vellum. So I think it's going to be nice. And like I said, I can always distress it. I can always hide it with strips of washi. Like I can sort of collage over it and hide it if I need to, if that line is just too strong. So what we're going to do is right now we're going to punch the holes in, like I said, first and foremost, because we need to have them, and I do have them clipped together. I've them lined up the best I can. I got everybody pretty situated here, because each bag's a little off. I mean, they're not perfect. And we're going to try to make them match, because we want to make sure that the, it feels a little off, that when the holes are in place and this thing is closed, we don't feel like one is a little off, like 2 in, 2 out, 2 top, 2 bottom. I want to make sure I feel like they're as, level as possible, because once I punch that hole, that is it. Hope you all are doing well. So this is something of a tutorial. I mean, I worked out the bugs, and now I'm just sharing it. I'm actually showing you with the actual cover. Yep, went all the way through. Also trying to, when I put the dots in there, it was to also help try to keep it sort of evenly placed so I didn't go too far in or too far out on the page. I don't want it too far in this way, because I think then the overlap is going to be really hard. But we don't want to be too close to the edge where we end up ripping right through the paper. Now, because it is the paper bags and, of course, digital covers. Oops, that one, yeah, it's not, there we go. That paper, yeah, okay. You know, it's getting thicker because we are just catching the edge of the digital papers, which are on a nice 32-pound paper. But still, like, it's, you know, we don't want to go either way. Hope you're all doing well. This is going to air, if all goes well, or I think the last day of May. Maybe Thursday the 1st, but I think this is going to be a Wednesday for you guys. A nice middle of the week, last day of May project as we're working this out. And I'm getting a little out. I mean, it feels like it's a little outward. It's not going to be perfect. It is hard when the paper that you're going across is not, you know, perfect. It zigzags and it's distressed. So now at one point I was not going to do a hole. I was not going to do an extra hole where this landed. But the way I'm crisscrossing it, I do need to go right back into the signature at the right spot. So I think of the signature, crossover. I need the bottom one. I may not need the top one, but I do need the bottom one for sure. But we're going to put it in there. And it may, you know, if I don't need it, if I don't go through it, I don't go through it. But if we do need it, it's there. And it's not like I can't loop it through later for the final. I think when the final one comes back up, I mean, I need it one way or another. I think I need one in the front and one in the back to finish it off. So, you know, we'll get it there. I'm going to have to move the whole thing. I almost made it where I was on the book. Totally. This is one of my glue books and all books, because this is not something you would use Amy's cradle for, because we're not going in. Now I use the cradle, of course, for the papers when I want to make the holes in the signature. But you can't do it here. This is definitely get an old book. They use like a glue book and just put your holes in it. It doesn't really matter. If there are holes later and you use those glue pages for something else, it just gives a character. Alright. They don't move it. I'm trying to adjust it. I'm like, nope, holes are holes. We're going to let it run. This will air the end of the May. Thank you all for watching, those who are come over to my Instagram page. That's going really well. Just doing reels of fun little moments there. And like this one, I was like, someone goes, "Oh, I hope you're going to show it on your channel." I went, all right. Yeah, you know, as added a subby's request on my Instagram, thought we'd come in and do it this way. Now I did take a six string embroidery thread. I found this big old chunk of gorgeous green at a thrift shop here in town, and I thought, oh, I love that color in everything I do. So it doesn't really matter. And it's a little off, but it's still antique. It's still a great color for a botanical. It looks great on everything, right? So even if there is minties on a little mint, more mint. Now I made my string only took the 2 threads. It's a little thicker than usual, and I did it at least the length of 4. Now when you do a Gale style, you know, sort of figure 8 in this thing, you go at least 3. But because we're doing a lot of back and forth on this, I didn't want to take any chances of not having enough. Last thing I want to have to do is try to figure out how to sew in, tie it, and bring it back out again. I didn't really want to have to do that, because then I'd have to pause and all kinds of things. So here's the fun part. Now it definitely makes it easier to do the laces up the side when you have something thick in the middle. That was the thing. It got to a point where my hands were in that progress, because I needed it thick so I could see what I was doing. And it also gives you the right amount of tension, so that you don't make your laces too tight, so that the pages at least overlap each other when you try to open them, but not so tight that we don't take a chance of ripping anything. So I am struggling right now, don't mind me, trying to get my thread in the needle. Now, I normally use the smallest needle possible in that all kit. When I ordered the all and the needles to do this, you know, it comes in many sizes, but I went for the, I normally go for the smallest needles I have to get through these holes, because otherwise I feel like we just either tear the paper or you can't get it through. It's really annoying. I think I just need to cut it cleaner. My daughter was doing an embroidery project, so she got to learn what it means to, you know, thread things and tie. Yeah, she's really bad at tying the knots. I'm like, I guess I've been doing this for so long. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh yeah, there's a sort of a trick to it, but everybody has their own little ordeal. So, like we do with everything else, you're still going to leave it. You want to leave a tail here to play with, and of course you're going to leave a tail back here when you sew it in. Now, here's the fun part. I had that in there a certain way, but we're going to tuck it in. So I'm going to leave it here because I know I need to get through in and out. And I'm going to try to line up my dot here with this, but we do need to be able to see everything we're doing. This is going to be the fun part. We're going to sort of go back and forth on clipping and unclipping because we have to see it. All right, so we're going to start out. Take your signature. You're doing this with me. We're going to work on the outside as if we were going to leave because we are leaving the tie on the outside, not the inside. Normally you would start here and you would go through and you leave the tail on the inside to sew it, to make your little dangle, whatever. In this case, we're going opposite. I want the tails on the outside because I want to be able to tie a bow on the outside. Like I said, it reminds me of a corset now more than anything. Here we go. Did I get it? Nope, almost. I never do. I don't know what the deal is. It's the only thing I'm having problems with Crafty Cat because it's such an angle that if you don't get the right angle, you can't get back through all your pages. There's nothing wrong with the crate. I have a hard time getting everything back through again. I'm getting it all lined up again. Oh no, right? So, yeah, if I don't have it open at just the right angle, I cannot get through all the pages. See, I always miss something somewhere. And so I don't get it through the middle. I get it like one by one. Ugh. Struggling. All right. I was trying to open it just right to where it's the same angle in the cradle as it was. It's not what I want to be doing one by one right now. Trying to get to the fun part here. I guess I could pause this and come back to this, but why would I do that? I mean, jeez. You get to see the struggle. You get to see. The struggle is real. Make sure you guys are still on camera. But anyway, yeah, it's still, I mean, we all have to do this. We all have to get through it and find your holes and not make the hole any bigger while you're doing it. Wow, let's say one by one right now. That is odd. I think because I can't open it, you know, I'm using my hands and I'm trying to, come on. It's like trying to open it enough to, I think something is offset. It's like the middle signature does not want to line up with everything else, so I'm trying to, there we go. Okay. Now that my signature is back together, all right. So everybody's in place. Everybody's where she's supposed to be. We want it tight. We want to make sure it's all together, which is why I sort of had it clipped, but I don't want it too big. All right, so we need to make sure we have enough here to sew. And we're going to go back to the top. No, this is where it's the standard like we would do with any other time. We'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to go back to the front. So we're going to find my hole if I can find it. There it is. And we're going to try to push it back through because now everything is not lined up. Jeez. Ah, got it. Yeah, I can go from the inside out, but the outside in I never do well. Do not get that. Okay, so that is like we always see it. Nothing new. But here's the fun part. Here's where we get fun. All right, so we're going to line up the best we can our signature hole with the first hole on the top. We're going to get the cover. We're going to put the, yep, okay. Make sure this one is the same. Pretty darn close. Lining them up the best we can with everybody because we want to make sure, I mean, we're not yanking on stuff too terribly, right? And so we have a whole set of work to do before I get to the bottom. So, or to the middle. So we're going to do this so we can see it. It's in place. And now, the fun part of this one is keeping to the outside of the papers. The biggest trick was instead of going to the inner holes and lacing outward, we're going to lace outward inward. If that makes any sense. Just realized I want to get rid of some of these marks real quick. The only way that it stays laced the way it needs to, and that I'm half left, half right-handed. This is the fun part too. Right and left-handed, and trying to show you guys at the same time. So when you have it all pretty much lined up the way you want it, sorry about the dogs, guys. Hopefully you won't hear too much of it. The only way this works the way I need it to is by going to the outside. You're going to lace the outside. You're not going to go inward. You're going to always be lacing from the outside. I don't know if that's how corsets actually work. No clue. So you're going to go you're going to go down at an angle now. So you came up through here, your first one. You're going to go across, We do want to go across. Here, let me see if I can zoom in. I'm trying to find it in between, but I don't know. It's focusing on my hand and not that. There we go. Maybe. All right, so you do want to go downward. I'm going from top to bottom, but we're going to crisscross bottom, come up, cross the bottom. And again, you have to come from the outside. The only time we're going to do the inside is when we're doing that back stitch, backside. Right here is the only time we're going to go underneath your cross, and you're going to fill it. This is the only time you're going to go from the inside to the inside. So what we're doing is we go here, we went to the bottom, to the outside, then we're going to go back underneath it to go to the top hole, and we're going to come back out. Let me see if I can get closer. I don't know how to really work at it. So from the outside, you're going to go in the hole. We're going to pull through. We got a lot of thread. We don't want to get it all bunched up. Okay. And instead of going to the inside, we're not. We're going to stay to the outside. You're going to go all the way out here. And you're going to come back in. And before it gets messy, gosh, this is where I can't grab it. You might want to, yeah, see, so if you keep it to the outside and nothing gets all bunched up, you're going to go into that top hole that you already have a stitch in to cross. This is where I'm trying not to get things too messed up, because what I want to do is not take a chance of, is that going to work? Nope. You want to make sure you're not messed up. So yeah, that didn't work quite as way I was hoping. So yeah. Anyway. So, going to the bottom one, go across to the next, you're going at an angle to the next one, come back up here, cross over. So it's just, yeah, I wish this was an easier way to do it. I'm on the outside, I'm pulling it through so I can get my from left to right diagonal. I'm going to go from the outside again on the next bottom one. Okay. And I'm going to pull it through so we can see it. But I'm going to go underneath my cross, underneath this diagonal, and I'm going to go into the hole above it, because I need to keep creating this continuous back stitch. And it's the only way to do it, to go back and forth to keep a nice stitch work. Now, I do need to tighten this a little bit. We don't want that to be dropping down too far, and we also don't want this crossing too much wider than the signature. Now, I know we're going to put a little bit in the signature, but so I want a little bit of room, and I also want to make sure when this opens, that this spot it's like an open spine of laces. We'll call it the corset lace, and we're just going to keep going down. I keep going too far over, sorry guys. Without, of course, catching your book. But it's all about the outside. Like if you go inward, you go into the inside, like you do with shoelaces. Sometimes you can do either way. Shoelaces, people will go sometimes lace their shoes from the outside in. Do you get this feel? Others will, I lace my shoes where I go to the inside of the hole. I don't want to go inside. We want to go to the outside, and we want to come back inward with my lace, because it makes this whole thing a whole lot easier. Now, I am trying to get, don't get caught. Okay, I'm sort of doing 2 in 1 here. I am trying to go downward and then inward and not get all tied up. I do a lot of stitch work. No, okay, there it is. And not lose your tail. That's the last thing I want to do is have to do this. I'll do a few more to see if it helps. I don't know that you guys are grasping this. I'm so sorry. I wish I had better verbiage. But it's over the last one from left to right, because this is technically left to right, front or back to front, coming from the outside into your hole, always. So that way, I'll help you get the best out of your string. yeah, this 2 string was pretty good. And I made that tail too long. That's why. I was like, what is wrong? It's always going from the outside inward. And then going back up to the previous hole because we want to get, you know, keep zigzagging in the right way. And really, you know, I'm just going right. Oh, it doesn't want to focus on my hand. Come on. Focus here. Focus here. Right there. Okay. So you want to go back up into this hole here. Yeah, it's funny how it's putting a square right there wherever I'm touching, but oh well. You guys won't see that. But anyway, you came down here from the outside in. Are you going to focus? You don't really want to focus, do you? That's so rude. Because I'm already zoomed in so much. But anyway, yeah, you're going to come down, and then you're going to go underneath the loop to get back to this hole, so you can come outward and go back down again. If that helps at all. Probably not. Probably not. Oh my goodness. And not make a knot out of your work. I don't know why it seems so fuzzy. I'm really bummed that this is not staying very clear. I don't know if... One sec, guys. I just feel like I make I zoom backwards and I come upward. It's not really focusing, no matter what I do. New. Come down here. Aha, right there. Watch it. See. Okay, so here we go. So I'm on the outside. Right. And I'm going to come down to this hole. But I'm coming in from the outside. Okay. Okay, gives you that nice cross. Then you're going to come to the next hole. This way. There we go. A little bit. You're going to come down to the next hole. Right, to get our bottom. And luckily this time I happened to pull to the top of it. So you came down and I came up here, which is good because you need to go back into this hole. Back to where that last cross was. And this is the only time you go from the inside out so that you can come back around to the outside. That makes sense? Did I leave myself? Yes. Okay. And every so often you're probably going to want to adjust. Make sure this is tight. Make sure that your signature is not too low. You really do want it up there. So you just keep maybe tightening your string up here, down here to make sure. There it is. But see, we're getting this nice laced, corset laced feel. And I'm trying to grab it and not lose it from you guys, I know. So if you grab it really tight, you can probably tighten these up a little bit. But if you don't, it will give us some leeway. So it just depends when you're done, you know, with that's a nice thing with the tails, we can tighten this until we are definitely sure that we are content with this. This is once it's all sewn and you don't, you know, cross it off. We can tighten this like we would anything else. And we can make sure it all stays lined up. It's where we want it. It's nice and tight. We're all happy with it. Okay. So we're going to go down to the bottom here, down to the middle. And then I'll show you how to zigzag. So we're going to pause and I will come once I get this part done. When we go to flip around, I will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So I made it down to the middle area. I did my final, you know, over the top, went to the back, came up to the middle section. And now when I come back down, instead of going into the front pocket, we're going to go right back into the signature. So when we flip back around, we should technically end on the opposite end. But let's see. Okay, so what we're going to do, drop it down just a little bit. And here's the fun part. Like you did before, though, you don't want to split your stitches. So you want to make sure you get to the outside of your stitch, of your paper, of your, outside of your string. Let's see if I can do this without completely making it too wide. This is a good test, though. We're definitely going to test out and see how well this opens and not undo everything. All right, here we go. So far, so good. Everything looks all right. And then by doing this middle section again, by going through, it's going to help keep the, I'm a little loose. Maybe we need to tighten it up a little bit, don't we? There we go. All right. So what we want to do, get that up there. You guys can see just barely. Move it up just a little bit. Okay, so you want to open up your signature again. We're going to see if we can do this in one shot and not do what we did last time. It should be a little easier because we do have that thread already there. But, oh yes, it worked. Okay, so I followed the thread. The thread still gives. We didn't split it as far as I can tell because that does make it hard. And you're going to go back to the bottom. Okay, we're going to go all the way down here again as if you were going to do a standard signature sew-in. We're going to push through the bottom. See, I just went through all the way to the bottom like we did any other signature. Like we were doing any other signature. Oh, that's myself. Okay, all the way down here. My tail's in the way. Pull that out. Okay, so technically the signature now, it has it's sewn in. It's attached a little bit. And we're going to close this back up. And let's get that. Oops, everything's coming out. Let's get our tail back out again because we don't want to get too tight and later have to pull that out. That tail's there. We're going to close it. And technically all we're doing now, ooh, we're going to reverse it. Come back down. So I guess actually your thing will have both ways. So one side's going to have a straight on one side, like the top will be straight here. The bottom will be straight down here. So both pages will have a little bit of that straight stitch and have both of the tighter stitch. And what happened right there? I'm like, wait a minute, before I get too close, before I get too far in, I noticed we had a very weird tension in our signature here. And that may have just been because it dropped. Okay. I was like, what is wrong with this? Hold on. We want to make sure that this signature, there we go, isn't too, we want to make sure everything isn't too tight, isn't too not, there's going to be a little bit of tension here in the middle because it is going, because it keeps dropping. That's why, because I don't have my things in place. I'm like, what is wrong here? Let's do this. We want it where we want it. We don't want it too tight. We don't want it too loose. We don't want it ripping anything. Right? And then because that signature keeps dropping low, it's not tight yet enough to be up here. So it's like, hello. I keep dropping it and I know better. Yeah, I want a little bit of give. We don't want it too tight. We don't want it too loose. And I need to make sure I put all my clasps back in place so that the journal doesn't keep dropping. I think now I'm going to put them on the bottom and top so that the journal doesn't keep dropping. Because what happens if that journal drops, it's going to be yanking too tight. Okay, so there we go. It's pretty even. We're now down here on the bottom. And I'm going to flip it around. So as if we were starting, I took my needle out. It's like we're starting all over again, right? We're now working from the top to the bottom again like we did the first half. So I didn't think about that, which is fine. That does mean that what do I want to call it? That back stitch, that straight stitch we were seeing on the back side is now also going to be on the front, which it keeps it even. It keeps it from not being like all one-sided or the other. I think this is the only way I could think of to actually sew in the journal, sew in the actual journal, the signature, to a cover that has two pieces, that isn't a standard, standard ordeal. So we're going to do just like we did last time. We're going to come to the outside first, which is like closest to me. It's not the front anymore. We're now dealing with the back, right? And we're going to go underneath that mess that we just created. We're going to go to the bottom one, or the second one, the second notch. Yep, see, and I did just what I didn't want to do. Gotta remember to go from the top, guys. From the back. That is my natural instinct, is to sew the inside. I've sewn up so many bears and so many hand stitch work that my instinct is to go right to the inside and not to the outside. But it's the only way it seems to work is if you go to the outside. Then you go to the top. This is good because we do have moments where we, can you see? Here we go. Sorry. Where we can, the only time we do want to go to the inside is right there. And come back to the top. All right, there we go. Let's do this. And of course, it's amazing how easily you get out of habit. Like you get going, you're like, oh, I'm good. And then you're like, oh, I stopped for a second and now I don't remember what I'm doing. Find the hole. Okay. Yeah, you might have to look. I'm trying to do this, of course, without looking half the time. And that makes it a little tougher, right? But now we got a chance where everything's sort of in place. Doing good. But yeah, it reminds me of lacing. I mean, first I was like, oh, lacing up your ballet shoes, the crisscross. But really, in the end, I think because of the way we're lacing it, it's actually a bit more like a corset. I really feel more like it's a corset, and at the end, you're going to tie the laces together. But instead of meeting at the bottom, we're going to meet, of course, in the middle, and we're just going to tie a nice little bow. And then if I wanted to, I could, put some kind of charm or something on the end of it. But We'll see if that's something I decide to stick with or not. We may not want to really get anything in the middle to interfere with any writing or any bumps. But I thought this was just a great way, you know, to sort of tie together the ephemera. The ephemera covers, ephemera holder covers, because a lot of the ephemera is going to go in the covers and not so much in the journal. I do have a few pockets here and there that I want to do. But this is going to be more to hold all the ephemera that goes to the skinny pages, skinny tall pages, so that you can just sort of write in the journal. Because there's a lot of decorative pages to this one. And, I'm not having hard. Didn't notice that the back ones was one thing, but when you're doing the main, it didn't cut through very well, did it? Huh. I'm not sure where my page. Oh, so my holes are really struggling here. So yeah, I'm going there, coming back around, going through the front, to the back, but making sure I get through that hole so that it keeps lacing its way through. So in the middle will be the fun part where that last piece, hopefully, we get into that last hole, and we just tie it on the outside. Whoopsie, I almost did it. Oh my god, I almost did it. So always outside, 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 except for right here. Except for when you need to do that back stitch to bring it back forward. And I'm really scared I'm not going to have enough string all of a sudden. Oh, I know. Now, once we get it going, we may be able to, like we do, is you would tighten up a corset or loosen it up. You're going to play with those strings accordingly until you get right where you want it to be. Oops. Oh, gosh, I really want to go from the outside, don't I? I mean, from the inside. It's really funny. It's such a hard habit to break, I guess. All right, how are we doing? We doing okay? Yeah. So, outside in, inside out. So I'm going to pause for a second. I think I'm just going to get these last few done, and I'll meet you at the middle when I am working on the ties. Hello, hello, hello. We're back. To you, it was a few mere minutes. For me, it's been a few hours. We went ahead and we were working on the outer seam work of the journal, and I was showing you the lovely sort of crisscross option here, and it was in green. You weren't losing your mind. It was in green, and I was finishing up. I was bringing it back up to the middle with a signature in here, and I realized I was going to come up short on the thread. So I thought, oh, like any other laces on a corset, we should be able to tighten it up. So I came out here, I pulled up on my tag, and I was going to tighten this up to get more to come up. And in the process, realized that a few strings I had gone between the two, so I had to split my threads. And in the process, so I thought, okay, I'll carefully undo it all, but in the process of trying to do it, it caught, I ripped stuff. So the idea is sound. These crisscross front and back hold ordeal is great, but we want to make sure that your cover, whatever you make it out of, is stout. That if you have light bags and papers, that you use a hardy washi over the edges. You glue that down. That we are a little farther in, so as we are tugging a little bit on the thread, it doesn't rip right through. And be very careful with your thread. So even though I was using the only 2 strings of the embossed embroidery floss, it was still sort of thick. And so it was having problems. I was having problems with the thread, and then I went back, and I thought, okay, I'll do the 6. And I even showed you I was finishing up with the 6 strings, and it was really thick, and it was just god awful. And then I still couldn't undo that. Oh my gosh. So this is a little soft up here. It didn't work as I was planned. And I think having the signature in here also made it a little bit more balance issue. Even though in the end I got it, and I had got it somewhat tight where I felt it was going to hold. It looked good in a simple sense of how this worked. If you go back and watch, like, okay, we were doing this and it looked great. And I think the idea in tying it in the middle was great. But I didn't like the thicker thread. It did not come out as clean as I was hoping. It kept catching on a single thread here and there out of the 6. And so it wasn't very clean. And that I couldn't stand. And then I couldn't get things, like, it just kept malfunctioning. So right now we have a signature that is sewn all by itself. I will decorate this, and I don't know if it's just going to sit in here and it's going to be wrapped in here and it's going to be part of it. If I do too much into it, I think this is going to get too heavy to put in the back pocket. So that's like my worry, that is like not going to hold. It's going to get too thick for the sew job. But then again, it's not bad now that I'm putting it in here. So if I don't do too much to the signature itself. I think we could put it in the back pocket. You could pull it out. You could write in it and put it back in there, right? Or you could just keep it here, wrap your thread around it, and then put it down, you know, decorated wherever you want to put it. But I went ahead and ended up just using old school, you know, silk thread that I use for all our stitch work, any hand work that I do. A lot of my hand quilt work, I will do this doubled up and do a lot of my stitch work. But I'm going through fabric, which is, you know, definitely hardier. Not that I haven't ran a few pieces of fabric in my day, but, you know. So I just went ahead and did the stitch work. But in this case, due to the fact that I knew this was going to be sort of a mess, I did the crisscross work back to back so that I can see the zigzags on the inside of our ephemera holder. In the end, I still did the same technique. I just did the smaller stuff, and I left the one side stitch work and one side straight work on the outside, because we're just going to go ahead and use the same stuff we used on the inside, and we're going to cover it with lace like we do with any other journal. You know, when we don't like the seam work and we weren't so sure about it, you know, we're just going to cover it in lace. We love lace. Let's just cover it in lace. And there's lace on the inside, so why not have it on the outside? And we'll even make sure that we have the ruffle on this side. We'll have the straight edge on the other. So we can do that right now with you guys, so you guys can see my finished work. Yeah, it's not perfect. Like I said, the idea is sound. The execution needs a little work. So definitely, if you like this idea, if this is something that stitching 2 pages together, and I'm not going to go quite to the top and bottom. You know, you like the idea of stitching 2 pages together. I think the crisscross works. Even, you know, I said even that straight edge works. Sewing in the signature, I think, would work. It's just we need a hardier covers. I think that if I had done the paper edges all the way to the edge of the paper, you know, I went to the paper all the way to the edge of the bag. If I had washied both of them front and back really good and then put the papers over it, like we just had a little bit more stout, a little bit more strength to the bag, I think the stitch work would have worked just fine. Because I think I kept catching the edge of the bag too much. And so I ended up, that's, you know, when push come to shove, you know, the string won out and not the paper bag. So, you know, that's what it is. It is what it is. We do what we have to do. We do what we can. It just is. So we're going to reinforce this puppy. You can see, right? Yeah, we're going to reinforce this puppy real quick with my lace. So you can see that the cover is, you know, doable. It is, my little ephemera holder is going to hold up, and it looks like it might even hold the journal if I do it as a nice light, you know, job to it. I don't go too crazy on the journal. I don't make it too heavy. I think that the journal could be in that back pocket without any real issues. And, you know, we're going to cover and put this big old thing on the front, and we are going to put this guy in some crazy way with some papers behind it and more paper collaging. And then we're going to have this envelope on here that's going to be attached with string that we may just, you know, loop around everything. We're going to probably attach some kind of string to this, and it's going to help, you know, close this up and secure that down at the same time. So you can take it off. There'll be some more ephemera inside the envelope, that kind of thing. So I think we have potential, you know, and anything can be fixed, but anything can be ordained. It's just a real bummer that it took like 3 shots, 3 tries. I got most of it done with you guys in the beginning half of this thing. First 30 minutes, it was great. I'm really wishing that green had worked. Because when I did finally, I was trying to tighten it up, and I kept, you know, sort of ripping the paper a little bit. I thought, okay, I can fix. And then I finally got it all. I went, okay, never mind, I'll take it out. Well, every time I pulled it through the paper, it would sort of shear the embossed, the embroidery, or embossed. I was talking to my mom earlier about about embossing. Oh gosh, how funny is that? I can't get it straight. Anybody else having problems? This is my Tuesday after the 3-day weekend, and man, am I having problems. No, the embroidery thread kept getting sheared by the paper holes, like it was cutting it. It was just like slightly, it's like that ripped rope as you're hanging on for dear life and you're watching it unthread itself and just pull apart. Yeah.
every time I pulled it through another set of holes, it kept shearing it and shearing it. And then all of a sudden I just had pieces of my embroidery floss. My string was not, was not string anymore, but shreds. And so that didn't help. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I need all 6 strings to get through the paper to hold out. And, but that really didn't make a difference. That just made it really thick then. And that made it too little bit too granny-ish. Like, no, that's a little too thick. This didn't call for that kind of thickness. So, yeah, it definitely, like I said, the idea behind it is great. I think it does work. And really doing it sort of inside out where we can cover up the stitch work. No one even knows it's there because I used a light color. You can't tell. Inside, you get to see that stitch work, but now it's reinforced with our lace. How's it look when it's open? It's a little pushy, little bougie right there, poofy. But I mean, that's to be expected when we're trying to cover the edges, and we're used to that. So you don't look at the back when you're have it open anyway, and when you have it closed, it's nice and tight. So there you go. I have to say I'm definitely happier with that than what I was working on. Oh my gosh, you don't know how many times I feel like I did and undid this poor thing. Oh, but we have our little vellum pocket. We have our clear pocket up here with a little guy inside, which that's getting really hard to get out. So I definitely feel like I need to put something bigger in here, because unless you have tweezers, that's really hard to get out. I wonder. But see, then that's too big. Well, I'm going to have to put something. I'm going to have to make something probably to put in there so I don't lose it every time I turn around. I mean, I could put a hole punch in there, but that's a little hard. I don't want to pull out anything else. So we have our little pocket up here that I added in. We have our double pocket. We have our little guy down here that's glued so we can tuck stuff in there, which is always great. I don't have anything to tuck in there right now. How rude. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. It is sewn in the middle, right, to bring these 2 pages together to make it a holder. It is laced on the outside to hide any of the imperfections that we just had to, well, work around, right? I had to do what we had to do. So we'll definitely collage on the front. We will add the envelope to this. And then it's just deciding whether or not our cute little signature in all its glory with a few more pockets, maybe just a few pockets added in here for your safekeepings, your letters, and your notes. Whether or not, it just going to sit inside here nice and secure with it all wrapped together, or whether, of course, maybe depending on who buys it, you have your signature, of course, tucked inside your pocket, which we have that big pocket in the back and a shorter one on the front. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching me. The idea, like I said, the idea is stout, it's strong, it's good, its execution does take a little TLC, and that's okay. So thank you all so much for watching, liking, loving, commenting. I really appreciate it as we jump on here and I show you more weird ways to hide your signatures, do a different type of, not hide your signatures, but hide your sewing, hide your binding, hide the way you get your signature in there. And in this case, the signature didn't even make it in there in the end, but it is in the ephemera holder. So why not, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, have a wonderful week if I don't see you the rest of the week. And June is upon us, and graduations and all kinds of other fun things. And I will talk to you as soon as I can. Have a great day. Bye-bye.